Hey friends, welcome back to Axial GT. Well, as you can see, we finally got some new gameplay footage of Amazon's New World MMORPG. And I have to say this looks a lot better than all the jump cut trailers we've been getting lately, and the previous alpha footage. It really does give you a feel for the game. And this footage obviously comes from MMO, the German gaming website. I will link the webpage in the description, but be forewarned, it's written in German. So if you're like me and don't speak the language, let alone read it, Google Translate is our friend. In this video, we'll go over a few tidbits of information we've received in an interview from MMO with Amazon Game Studios Head of Player Experience, David Ferfaley. And my apologies if I butchered his name. And I'll also be giving my thoughts and impressions throughout of the interview and gameplay footage. But before we get started, this is the point on which I ask you to do all those little things. Like, subscribe, hit the bell to be notified of future uploads. With that out of the way, let's get started. First off, this new gameplay footage looks great, especially for an MMO. You can tell that the time and energy has been spent polishing the visuals when compared to the minuscule footage we've received previously. And some things that we did learn from the interview, MMO asked a lot of really good questions concerning the alpha and what it will be like going forward to the beta and launch. First up is, what did Amazon Game Studios learn from the alpha? And David, Head of Player Experience, replied with this: the fact that we had an alpha was extremely useful. MMOs are huge games with a lot of intersecting systems. It is therefore very difficult to predict how everything will work out in the end. You cannot test everything, you have to let the players on. A few of the big things that we found were larger exploits that we never would have discovered on our own. Players are extremely clever and find things that we as developers could never have predicted. For example, how to level up or get gold faster than planned. Another big aspect is balancing. Something we really like about our game is the classless progression system. You can create your own class by choosing your weapons and armor. With the weapon mastery system, you can specialize even more. With so many options, it is of course very difficult to balance the game. The alpha was a critical factor here. And the third thing we learned is what players like about our game, and what they dislike, and what they would like more of. So we found out that players like quests, and therefore delivering more and more of them at the start of the alpha. We are still an open world MMO, with the corresponding open world systems such as territory control, player-run economy, and housing. But we also wanted direct content like quests. This is why we have a storyline quest that introduces you to the history of the world. The different territories of the world also have such quests. We only found that out from players and did it that way. We did two things with the quests. One is that we added more story to the quests. The quests now tell more about the island, why there are people, and what the history of the island is. We put a lot of time into storytelling. It's a big deal. The second big innovation is what we're doing with quests with long chain events. There's a staff quest. You need this staff to interact with and close the corrupted breaches. To get the wand, you now have to go through a long quest chain. We also have long multi-part quests to find certain legendary items. These were all the big changes we wanted to make with quests. And it does need to be said that there are still lore books in the world that give experience points when they're collected. This should be an incentive to discover the documents distributed throughout the open world. And one of the other things we learned is that the players out there are much better at this game than us. We adjusted the Spriggan in the arena to be difficult for us, and then there was a recent forum post on how a group of 5 players at maximum level defeated him in 1 minute and 30 seconds. Players learn new tricks, find the best equipment, and do pretty incredible things. So we learn from them, and we'll make the Spriggan even harder to keep up the challenge. MMO also asked David, we know that war works like this. There is a governor and he selects 50 players for the PvP battle. And some people wondered how this works in detail. Will the governor always choose only his friends? Or can you participate as a solo player without an invitation? Or how does this work? David goes on to say, so the way this works is when war is declared, a war station appears in the city. And anyone in the attacking or defending faction can sign up to be either attacker or defender. So anyone who belongs to the right faction can register. The governor then receives a list of all the registered players and can choose who should help them defend. I think the governors are interested in keeping control, so I think it's in their best interest to choose players who they think can best help them defend or attack. You will therefore often choose people you know or high-level players. Players who want to participate but are not part of it can set up a company themselves and declare war. Anyone can do that, and then you have control over who has choice and who goes to war. Then MMO asks, let's assume there is a group of people who have now started their own company. You are still at low level. Now everyone can declare war. What happens if there is a company that is big and has good players declares war on a small company that is not yet very advanced? How does this work from a balancing point of view, and is it even possible? David came back with, there are currently no restrictions on this, so everyone can declare war on everyone. But what we have built in is that if you control an area, you have to set a time window, i.e. a war period. This is the period which other companies can attack you. The reason for this is we don't want to have offline raiding that is available in other games, and we wanted it to be a fair fight. So you set a time and it stays that way. If you as a defending company dominate several areas, you can only set one time window. This means the further you expand, the fewer people from your own circle of friends and acquaintances you can use for every war if you are attacked on several places at the same time. We wanted to imitate wars in which the following applies. The more you spread, the more borders you have to defend, and the more dangerous it becomes for you. And as we have seen in history, when you try to get too big too quickly, you usually fall apart again. Mine MMO also brought up on how they slowly wanted to introduce players to new features, and what did that look like? David's response was, it starts very early in the game. The gearing and progression part of MMOs is such an essential part of games. It's one of the things that players love so much about it. They see steady progress of their characters, therefore our gear progress starts early and contains different elements. One of the most important elements is what we call perks. There are random properties that can be drawn for the equipment, and you can have up to 3 of them. Low-level armor will have no perks, or only 1 perk, while later in the game, you'll have the opportunity to get more and stronger perks. But we introduced the system to the players early on. The perks are a way to specialize and strengthen your gear. Another system that we use, and that is fairly new, is the base of the gemstones and weapons and armor. If you have equipment with bases, you can pull them out and mine gems. And there is a crafting tree for gems with skills that allow you to refine the stones and pack them in the gear. And that allows you to make weapons and armor even stronger by adding various attribute bonuses. It starts early in the game. You can also make gems at a low level, and they will level up, just like weapons do. Then Mine MMO brings up balancing. And they ask, that sounds like a paradise for people who like to experiment with their builds, but also sounds like balancing hell. Considering all the different mechanics and elements of the game, with the different weapons, with the gems, with the bonuses from the consumables and so on, how can you keep balance there? And David does admit, it is extremely difficult to properly balance this game. As you said, there are tons of flexible components in the system. We have the armor, we have weapon mastery, we have all the consumables with food, water, and it is a system without classes. That means the players can choose their own combinations, and the possibilities are almost limitless. So it's very difficult to keep the balance in the game. So what we did is that we've been running the alpha for about 18 weeks now. We get new data every week, and keep adapting it to the desired balance. I wish I could promise that we could achieve the perfect balance at launch, but that won't happen. It will be good, and it will be fun to play, but I think we are committed to adapting it forever. And finally, Mine MMO asks, in the end, a question that might really make you smile. Do you remember any exploit from Alpha that was really surprising and funny? And David says, okay, this might not be super funny now, but it was one of those things that nobody would have expected. In our game, you can send money to other players. So if you have a friend who just started and you want to give him some gold, you can do it. One of the players found an exploit. If you sent someone a negative amount of gold, the number overflowed and they got 800 billion or so. Fortunately, we immediately raised alarm bells when that happened, but there are still some people who are very rich while during the alpha. And that was the end of the interview. Now, admittedly, this interview did rehash a lot of things, but it did clarify some aspects, like on how war worked and crafting with gems. And I have to admit, I'm really excited about this footage. The game does look a lot better than I thought it would. Now, I will admit, this video has actually been pretty hard to make. I usually try to put stuff on the screen to keep things interesting, but I didn't want to cover up this new gameplay footage, so they were left off on purpose. But those of you who made it to the end of this video, I really do appreciate you watching. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell for future Axial GT content. Here at the end of the video, I'll go ahead and crank up the gameplay audio, that way you can get a feel on what the game sounds like. But that's it. Until next time, I'm out of here. You all have a good one.